Closer to home, this week there have been calls for the leader of Cheshire East Council to resign after government inspectors said its proposed local development plan was inadequate and unsound. It's cost almost £4 million and developers are having a field day. Here's our Cheshire reporter, Mark Edwardson.
How many kinds of sweet flowers grow in an English country garden?
The borough of Cheshire East, prosperous and pleasant, but not everything's rosy in the garden. Cheshire East Council has admitted it got its sums wrong. 5 years, £3.7 million spent, still no viable development plan, and, according to some, a house building free-for-all.
We had the lime green saga where over £1 million was wasted by the council in relationship to a site, and the local plan was being considered. Very early on, I went to the Strategic Planning Committee and said, if you continue as you are, we're going to have a lime green revisited, and that is exactly the position we're in now.
High-end business centres like Alderley Park have been identified by the planning inspector as a sign of Cheshire East's growth. Stephen Pratt says its prosperity means it'll need 40,000 new homes, not the 27,000 the council's estimated. A town bigger than Wilmslow is missing from the plan.
I believe that development now in this area should stop.
All over Cheshire East, small groups are fighting what they consider overdevelopment in the absence of a plan.
This is the historic market town of Sandbach. People have been living here for thousands of years. These crosses are Saxon in origin. At the moment there are 8,000 homes in the town. Another 2,000 are either approved or being built. That's a 25% increase in its size in just a few years. And there could be more to come.
This is the Old Mill Quarter site where there's currently an outstanding appeal for 250 houses on this site. If we'd spent £3.7 million and got a good plan, you could say it was well worth the money. The fact that we spent £3.7 million and we don't have a local plan is a disaster.
We don't want any more planning applications going through until we've got our local plan in place.
Without a plan, it's more difficult for councils to control development. Cheshire East Council has been fighting proposals, losing many of them on appeal.
Given the government inspector's comments, I can see that the disaster that's hit Sandbach with all the speculative housing around here will now move north. We still have the potential for political interference from the top, and I think that's where Michael Jones needs to be very clear. If he can't keep his fingers out, then he needs to go.
Developers too would like a clearer idea about what can be built, where and when.
They would have much rather had a plan and assessed them against the plan. They haven't had a plan, so people have seen it as an opportunity.
The clock is ticking on Cheshire East's obligation to resubmit its local development plan. It's got less than 6 months.
And we're joined now by Michael Jones, the leader of Cheshire East Council. Welcome to the programme.
Always a pleasure.
How much of a priority to you and the council is the local plan?
Well, I became leader 2 years ago. I've doubled the resources in it. Interesting point, 3.7 million against a minimum of 81 billion developer interest and value. Could be 120 billion. 3.7 million, they're saying it's wasted. Look, you're dealing with people's lives here. My really wanted to get on with it and get things done.
I don't think anyone's saying it would be a waste of money had it all panned out, but the point is that the plan's failing at the moment.
No, it's not. Mr. Pratt's not said that. What he said very clearly is that from LGR, which we know we did, and Hazel's in the room, we'll have a chat about it short later, the fact is that is against the will of all the people of Cheshire, came forward without letting us carry through the plans which were in place. The Macclesfield done, Compton well on the way, and Crewe and Nantwich very much close through there. Had they been brought through, and the realistic way of doing it, we'll be protected. Now we're not. Is it regretful where we are? Of course, I don't deny that. But I say this to you, this is really about protecting the people of Cheshire East. We've got to look at getting forward. Mr. Pratt's made some very clear messages to us.
He's called the plan so far inadequate and unsound, and that's a plan that you have been overseeing as leader.
What he actually said was, if you go forward without reviewing it, i.e. take some sort of pause,
yes,
he's likely
so
to
in other words, where we're up to at the moment.
He said he's likely to. Now, I agree with that comment. When you look at this comment's been made, when you look at the methodology we've used, clearly, I'm disappointed that we're in this position.
But why are we in this position?
Because we've got our methodology and our numbers wrong. That's what the inspector has said. It's very, very clear to everybody. Now,
well, who's taking responsibility for that?
Well, obviously, at the end of the day, the person leading, the political leader of this, has decided to step down, and I applaud Councillor Brown for doing that. We're now putting a new team together to move it forward, and we're going to get this moving forward as fast as we can. We're also meeting with developers. I met with a major one yesterday. yesterday discussing the way forward, and we'll continue to work on one. But let's be very clear, you're talking the richest county in the northwest, where developer value, one field in Prestbury with 1.5 acres would cost more value than what we spent on the plan.
But
the
nobody's
developers spent
disputing that.
hundreds of millions of pounds fighting us. Now what I say to you is we're very simple. We're going to go local. Neighbourhood plans going forward. You put Sam Corcoran on the TV today. Let me clear them. He's got a neighbourhood plan he can bring in to protect Sandbach. He's slowing it down. The Labour Party are playing politics with people's lives, and it's not right.
Well, let's talk about playing politics with it, because one of the criticisms, one of the allegations, is that you've shoved as much planning down south in Labour areas rather than up north into Conservative areas.
We've got a greenbelt constraint in the north, and I've actually came up with a new village concept to allow sustainability, to think for infrastructure, next to jobs, next to the SEM, next to Airport City, and I'm accused of saying I don't want growth in that area.
Well, hasn't the...
You've got a massive greenbelt, Arif, and you know that.
I do know
and
that.
The government say you can't develop in greenbelt easily. But also, we've got jobs coming in the south.
But on that specific point, hasn't the inspector himself said that he wants to see further development in those villages within, such as Point and such as Knutsford, which aren't currently in the plan?
Let's talk about Knutsford, okay? I've met with every resident group there. We agree a way forward. They think it's sustainable. Talking to schools, talking to doctors, talking to road infrastructure. We've met with the people and they say this number is robust. The inspector then says we don't agree. Now we have to look and defend our arguments. What he's saying is evidence it. But the people
exactly. There's a lack of evidence in your plan.
I accept that completely. But the people in Knutsford deserve better than that. And I'm going to fight with them. Each resident group know what we're going to try and do.
But the trouble is, when you fight with residents, you don't seem to win.
Fight for them, not with them. That's our job. Is to fight for them.
But it would help if you won those battles, because let's take a look at Sandbach. There you gave a pledge that the amount of development there would not rise by more than a quarter. It's gone up from 8,000 properties up to 10,000 planned. That is a rise of a quarter, and there are more in the pipeline. It might not be your fault, but do you acknowledge that you're going to have to break that pledge?
I'm trying my best to protect everything. You take, for example, the site
I know you're trying your best, but do you accept that's not going to happen?
You're talking to a site, right, where a developer has said, we will build on here, and yet the access is controlled by Cheshire East. And they're saying to us, we will take you to court and force you to sell it. That's the attitude of developers on Old Mill site. That's the road you're talking about. We will control the development. We will not sell it. We'll block that development as far as we can because it's not sustainable.
Let me bring Hazel Blears in, because there's been some criticism levelled at you that the district councils had local plans that they were working on, and in 2009 under the Labour government you told them to stop those plans, scrap them and start again.
Well, what we wanted to try and do was make sure that we got a dramatic increase in housing, and particularly affordable housing, and we're all still struggling with that. I think that we do need. I think we do need local.
And no one's building them.
I think we do need local plans.
Political agenderisation.
Well, let Hazel at least answer.
Right. I do believe in politics being about a discussion as well as shouting at each other. I do think we need local plans. What I'm concerned about is the number of affordable homes that there are in this country. In the last year of the Labour government, there were 53,000 homes affordable built. Last year, it was 36,000. We clearly need to get on, because if homes are not affordable, if rents and prices are too high, people then are not able to afford that, and the housing benefit bill goes up. So it's in nobody's interest for us not to have these.
With hindsight, though, was it a mistake to ask the council to start again?
Well, I think that if councils had done it efficiently, they could have got their local plans up and running by now. I think that there are problems in Cheshire, there are problems with Greenbelt, I've no doubt about that, but it seems to me, again, to be taking an inordinately long time, £4 million of local taxpayers' money to do this plan. I don't know the details of what's happened there, but I think most local people will say, let's get on with it, let's get those houses built, and let's get more affordable homes in places like Knutsford and Point, and that would be great.
And Esther, part of the problem perhaps is that the government's put this presumption in favour of planning, which means that places like Cheshire East can't control the developers.
No, I think what our government is about is, hang on a sec, what our government about is making sure that people on the ground, people locally, because everybody's talking about localism, what happens in my area, can I have a say, not somebody elsewhere, but what about me, down my local road, can I have a say in where I live? Because you know what, I'm really rooted to that area, and that's what we're trying to do. And as for affordable homes, actually we're doing significantly more. I've just come from a big site here in Manchester at the Hat Box, yes, where they've got Help to Buy, lots more affordable homes, and we're putting billions of pounds into it. So please, I don't really know where you get the facts from today.
Absolutely.
Let's park that there, because I want to go back to Councillor Jones. We're now going through a 6-month review effectively a pause of the process. Can you give us a guarantee that at the end of that 6 months, the local plan will be back on track?
I give you a guarantee that I'm going to fight hard in every way to get as close as I can. But remember this, I'm not involved in it. I stepped away from it. I didn't even take part in the debate.
Yeah, but you're the leader.
The interesting point, as the leader, I'll promise what I'll do. I'll go forward hard neighbourhood plans, fast-tracking 14, 30 other ones underway, including Sandbach, which you talk about a lot. But more important than this, let's be very clear. We are where we are today because the Labour Party played politics in Cheshire and split us against the referendum locally, against the desire of people that go forward.
Councillor Jones, it's been up to you to get this plan back on track.
More resources in. What a situation, and I'm now bringing even more resources in.
I know, you've put vast amounts of resources in.
Come on,
but the
vast amounts again, 81 billion of developer value. That is not vast. That is what we can afford. We balance our budget, we put investment to our roads, we've got jobs coming forward. You want one comment to say, let's talk about reality. We may well have undermined our plan by our jobs growth, where we turned round Oldie Park with a disaster decision, and we've got other things coming out next week,
let me
new
ask you
decisions
this,
on jobs,
Councillor Jones.
which will be made by senior people.
Can I ask you a question?
We are going forward. Of course you can.
If at the end of that 6 months, your plan is still not in place or not on course, at that point, as leader of the council, will you resign?
Of course not, Alf. You know that petty politics saying, oh, people resign. I'll do what I need to do to protect the people of Cheshire East. Give them growth, give them health. You know, we're about to announce next week no more needs. The only council in the country saying an end of eligible needs. That's what we do. We put education, we put people first. We're a good Conservative council, looking after people and delivering, and we'll continue to do it.
Councillor Jones, thank you very much indeed. Now let's